everybody, hop on in and get cozy, because today we're taking a little musical time travel adventure all the way back to the late 1800s when American concert music was still figuring out who it wanted to be. So picture this. Over in Europe, composers were deep in what we call the Romantic era. All about big feelings, big imaginations, and celebrating each culture's unique musical flavor, folk tunes, legends, national dances. Meanwhile, America was like, hi, we're kinda new here. The country was barely 100 years old, still reeling from the aftermath of the Civil War, and trying to figure out what American music should even sound like. Some folks were desperate to prove American music could be just as fancy and fabulous as Europe's, with its centuries-long pedigree. They even brought in the superstar Czech composer Dvorak to New York to help them figure it out. Like, hello, sir, please teach us how to be cool like you. But then other Americans were like, psh, European music is unmanly and un-American. Out in rural towns, some people thought being a musician or composer wasn't very red-blooded American. This buddy disapproves. And into this chaotic cultural soup hops Charles Ives. His dad, George Ives, had been the youngest bandmaster in the Union Army, and apparently his band was the best around. After the war, George became basically the music chaos gremlin of Danbury, Connecticut. He was the town's everything music guy. Band director, cornet player, choir leader, teacher. Even still, most people didn't really understand or respect musicians back then. But here's the fun part. George didn't just teach and play music. He conducted full-scale sonic experiments. He had his kids sing in different keys at the same time. He built quarter-tone instruments. He played his cornet across a pond just to hear the echo. He marched two bands around a park playing different tunes to see what would happen when they crossed paths. This man was basically the Mythbusters of 19th century music. Little Charlie absorbed all of this. He started piano at age 5, became a church organist at 14, and was composing music by 13. He grew up surrounded by barn dances, country fiddling, marching bands, hymns, ragtime, patriotic tunes, basically the entire American soundscape in one big musical stew. One of George's most beautiful lessons came from hearing a stonemason sing a hymn off-key. He told Charlie, "Look into his face and hear the music of the ages. If you focus too much on the sounds, you might miss the music." Isn't that lovely? Fast forward, Charles goes to Yale, learns all the classical music rules, and then breaks them like a kung fu rabbit kicking down the walls of boredom. His big challenge was blending all the parts of himself into an authentic sound palette, from European classical traditions, American vernacular music, and his love of sonic chaos and chants. And wow, the music he created was way ahead of its time. So ahead, in fact, that many of his major works weren't performed until 50 years later. Audiences and conductors just didn't know what to make of him yet. He was out there writing 21st century sound collages in 1905, while everyone else was still politely waltzing or singing patriotic tunes. And he did it all by hand. No computers, no microphones, just pure brain gremlin creativity on manuscript paper. He stitched together European masterpieces with the sounds of rural America. Hymns, marches, folk tunes, patriotic songs, weaving them into something wild and new. If you listen closely, you can hear all these little musical Easter eggs hopping around his music. But when it all blends together, it becomes something bigger, something unmistakably Ives, even with the familiar bits and pieces floating around unexpectedly to add color and context. He supported other composers too, cheering them on as they searched for their own American voices. But he didn't write music to impress anyone. He had a whole day job in insurance. He composed because he loved it, because it made his spirit hop, because he wanted to explore the sound the same way a bunny explores a new thing in her bunny space, with curiosity, chaos, and joy. So that's Charles Ives, the original American musical mad scientist, a composer who mixed the everyday and the extraordinary, the familiar with the unexpected, until he created a sound world entirely, uniquely his own. The bunny patron saint of What If I Just Tried It? Alright, my fluffy friends, that's today's Hop Through History. Now go listen for the weird, wonderful music hiding in everyday life. And if you hear two marching bands playing different tunes at once, George Ives would be proud.